we have a nice selection of cast members for you today. And we have Colorado Springs. This lady has appeared in Colorado Springs video that was shot there as herself, but she's also been a Knoxville reenactor. And then everyone else has been in the Knoxville reenactments. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves. But first of all, I'm going to introduce someone who's really was a prime mover, if you will, of these cruises about 4 or 5 years ago. I approached him, we were friends on Facebook, we started a conversation. He knew about these other cruises we do, fun and fitness cruises. It's mainly water aerobics oriented cruises that also have a little to do with gentle yoga, chair yoga. They're primarily for senior citizens who participate in their local YMCAs, YWCAs, and other fitness centers. So he kind of took a chance on us. We had never done these big, high-profile cruises before, but he had faith in us because he had seen what we had done on a smaller scale. And so he gave us the green light, and he put us in touch with Joe Kenda. He let him know that we're for real. We've been doing this for 20 years now, and let's do it. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, the main reason we're here, the first person to green light these cruises, Carl Marino. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about each one of them. And this gentleman was on, the first gentleman was on our first cruise this year, I should say, in January of this year, on a ship that looked, if you were on that, this ship looks like deja vu all over again, because it's exactly the same layout. Our cruise, by the way, a year from now, Regal Cruise from New York, is bigger, more modern, so it's a little bit different layout. Although they have a venue very similar to this called the Vista Lounge, which we're probably going to do our deck 7.5. So anyway, so you may have seen this gentleman. In fact, almost all of you probably have seen him on the episode that was about 2 weeks ago, Wednesday night of almost 2 weeks ago. And he's a detective that gave commentary on a case that he was involved with in Colorado Springs. So let's welcome Sal Fiorillo from Colorado Springs.
Hi, good afternoon. I was standing out here, I have to sit down and talk. But as Jim said, my name is Sal Fiorillo. I retired from the Colorado Springs Police Department a couple years ago as a lieutenant. And I had the opportunity to be on an episode a couple weeks ago, and I shot a couple more that are going to be here in the future. Anyway, just a real quick bio of what I did. I spent about 30 years in the police department. I spent a lot of time working in undercover narcotics, and that episode that was shot a couple weeks ago involved my role in narcotics. After narcotics, I had an opportunity to work for Lieutenant Kenda, but it wasn't in homicide. He oversaw the major crimes unit, and we formed what we called a juvenile offender unit. Basically, it was to deal with gangs and the violent juvenile offenders. I had an opportunity to work for Lieutenant Kenda for 2 years in that capacity. And then I made the mistake of testing for sergeant, and I got promoted and had to go back to patrol. And so I spent a few years in patrol after that as a patrol supervisor. Back to narcotics. By the way, that was my favorite job. I spent a couple years as a supervisor in narcotics. And then I got to kind of follow in Lieutenant Kenda's footsteps, and I oversaw the homicide unit for about 4 years. And that was a very challenging and at times frustrating job. It was also very rewarding. After that, I made another mistake, and I tested, and I got promoted to lieutenant. And as Lieutenant Kenda would say, that was probably the biggest mistake he made, the biggest mistake I made. It's one thing to be a sergeant, but it's another thing to be an operator as opposed to an administrator. So I made lieutenant, and I ended up going back to Patrol Bureau, and then I ended my career working in our Special Operations section. I oversaw our tactical operations, the SWAT team, K-9 bomb squad. And I had an opportunity to work with Brian Ritz, as all you guys know. Brian and I shared offices, or not shared an office, we were next door to each other and got to work side by side. And I don't know if Brian's in here or not. But Brian and I had a really good time working together. Brian, you know, he's kind of clean cut, real serious guy. Brian is he's a practical joker. He was a whole lot of fun to work with. I don't know if Brian's in here, but so he has that serious look. But don't let him fool you. He's a practical joker type of guy. So anyway, I worked there for 6 years, and then decided it was time to, after about 30 years, it was time to pull the plug. But during my time in homicide and even in narcotics, I worked extensively with Larry Martin, as you guys all know. Larry and I worked a lot of cases together in homicide and narcotics, and it was a rewarding, fun career, and I don't regret a minute of it. But again, even though this is Homicide Hunters, and the best job I had was working narcotics, working undercover narcotics. You could get up in the morning, you don't have to take a shower, you don't have to comb your hair, you can put on a ball cap, wear shorts, and at times, and this was very, very difficult, I didn't like doing it, but they would send you to bars and make you drink beer. And I hated doing that. I absolutely despised doing it, but you know, I'm a team player, so that's what I really did. Anyway, and it's an honor to get up here with this great group of people, and also being able to share this experience with Lieutenant Kenda and Larry Martin and Brian Ritz and everybody else. So I just want to thank everybody, and I'll go ahead and pass it off to Captain Kenda.
I'm Kathy Kenda, and I am the long-suffering wife. I'll pass this on to Alana.
Let me just interrupt for 1 second and say that some of you were looking for my brother earlier to either exchange a t-shirt or buy an extra t-shirt, so he has now arrived. And he's now arrived, and you can go into his office over there and say hi.
Hi, I'm right now. You guys want to this way? And you may have seen me on a few episodes here and there. Keep watching.
She doesn't like to talk much. I'm Carl Moreno. I was a deputy sheriff for 17 years before this. Almost didn't submit for this role, which I would have been kicking myself watching TPID channel saying, kind of looks familiar. But my wife actually convinced me to, because I had to audition for it in Los Angeles, and I lived in San Francisco, and it's a 6-hour drive. Go down, you audition against 10,000 people that look and sound exactly like you. It's a frustrating thing. But, I want to thank her for telling me, you know, you matched the description, please just go do it. And so here I am. Otherwise, somebody else standing up to talk to you. I want to first off thank Joe Kenda, because none of us would be here right now if it wasn't for him and the career that he had. I'm very grateful every day. Thanks to Jim Forrest and John for organizing all this. Special thanks to Michelle Luchetti and Michael, who put together all your swag bags and worked tirelessly to I'm not sure Jim would be able to run this without Michelle anymore. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but thank you to those. Thank you to you fans. I mean, without you guys, we wouldn't be here either. And so you're fantastic. We're all in family. And I always tell everyone, once you come out on a Kenda Cruise, you're no longer fans of the show. You're Kenda Cruise family. Thank all of you. I mean, and we got people that came from everywhere. Last week we had several people from the UK, we had people from Australia, you know, even a few people from Eagle River. Eagle River! That's an insight. But anyways, thanks again. Pass this on.
My name is Julie Small. I am the Technical Services Supervisor for the Knoxville Police Department, where most of the show is shot. I've been with the police department for 5 years. That's my day job. I get to work with the two-way radios, the car camera system, all the technical aspects that the police officers do. I get to support these guys every day. In the night and the evenings, sometimes I get the opportunity to play a CSI on the show. We don't just do Homicide Hunter. I've been a medical examiner for Murder Chose Me. I've been CSI for Murder Chose Me. We've got an upcoming show called Murder Decoded. I've been a medical examiner in that for 2 episodes. That'll be coming up starting the first of the year. And my favorite thing is being married to this guy.
My name is Brian Davis. I've been with the Knoxville Police Department for about 26 years. I've done a wide variety of jobs to include patrol, organized crime, unclosing, homicide, and polygraph detail. I'm now a sergeant over all the property and evidence at KPD, which is about 56,000 items to include evidence going back to the 50s on early days. How I got involved in this is, as you know, officers work extra jobs and we're constantly hustling to pay bills because, predators like to be paid. And so we get a text one day, hey, I have a really, really easy job for you. All you have to do is stand there. I'm standing pretty well. I felt slightly qualified for it, so I said, sure, why not? I show up on the location and they start putting tape over my patches and tape over my back. What's going on? Well, we need you to act this scene out. Excuse me. I have no talent at all, and I can barely, I don't want to be on TV at all. And that was 6 years ago. And so about 50 episodes later, here I am. Again, it's been said before, but we really want to thank you all, the fans of the show, for being here and supporting us. It's gone on longer than we ever dreamed it would. And thank you all so very much.
Hi, I'm Heather Wilson, and I have the most exciting job of anyone on the panel. I am a librarian. So I have been on homicide. I think I've been a CSI a couple of times, and I was a jury foreman once. And like Julie said, there's some other shows in Knoxville. So just anytime they need somebody, we're there.
We've actually filmed in your library also.
That's right. This season it was my library. That was the Fort Casey Library. That was a lot of fun. So that's been fun for my children. My two youngest have been able to go see our 9-year-old. She watches TV now, and somebody's been stabbed to death. She's like, oh yeah, whatever, because she sat next to a stabbing victim and had lunch before. So that's a lot of fun. And yeah, I've been Adam's wife for 20 wonderful years, and so I'm going to hand this over to him.
Good afternoon, I'm Adam Wilson. I'm a Knoxville police officer. I've been a police officer at Knoxville for about 17 years. Did about 7.5 years on patrol, 2 years in a plainclothes street vice unit. That was the best 2 years, 2.5 years of my career. Super fun. I would agree with the narcotics statement, the fun stuff, that's where the fun is. Spent 5 years, 5.5 years roughly in our training academy teaching new police officers how to be police officers. That's a challenge. And then the last 2.5 years, I've been a school resource officer in high schools in Knoxville. And I have really enjoyed that in close contact with young people and trying to make a difference in their lives. I've been on homicide since season 2. The first season that they filmed in Knoxville, and like Brian, I got a text that said, hey, you want to be on this show called Homicide Hunter? And I was like, is the check going to clear? And so I went and did it.
And Adam got thrown in there pretty quick because if you notice, he doesn't have a southern accent. So he became the responding officer on almost every episode.
Here's how that goes. Show up on set on time, start getting your uniform all taken care of, and somebody comes up to you and says, hey, you've got lines. Okay.
And it's usually me because I want to make sure he knows them because nobody gave him the lines before.
Exactly. So we did about 15 or 20 minutes to peruse what we're supposed to say, and then laugh at the writers. They do an exceptional job, but they're not cops, so they don't write lines like cops. So
Nobody says, so what's the word on the street? And that was written in one of our scripts once.
So typically, whoever's playing the part, whoever's doing the briefing stands there with Carl. We have a laugh together about how it's written. We decide on how that's actually going to come out, right? We're changing the script. And then we just tell the director, this is what we're going to do.
And our director's got that. And what's the first thing I always say?
So what do we got?
Exactly. no matter what it says in my script. That's what I said. The writers like to try and write these things. So, what's happening inside of there today? So what's the situation this morning? I walk up, I cross it off, I say, so what do we got? That's how cops talk. We don't have time, we want to know what's going on.
3/4 of Carl's and my conversations in our entire relationship start out. So we got good stuff. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being fans of the show. It makes a huge difference. We appreciate it.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is very similar to what we did at the morning session. And I need another volunteer to run the microphone because Andrew Elkins did a great job, but he wants to take pictures of this session. So
He's tired.
and he's retired. So okay, you'll do that. If you want to cover the starboard side like Andrew did. Who's got the first question? Stand up.
We've got a question right here.
So just like the morning session, please say your first name and what city you're from, and we're going to try to kind of alternate, bounce back and forth between port side and starboard side.
Okay, I guess I'm going to vote here. Of course, I'm Bob from Rio Rancho, which is the Albuquerque Metro. And a big shout out to all these guys. Love your show and just enjoy it so much. And again, I'd like to give an extra shout out to Carl and Mona. You guys do so much great volunteer work. You're off the set. I got to see you guys 6 weeks ago in Albuquerque for 1082 charity event there. And it's greatly appreciated. Guys, they're just lovely. But
We had a fantastic time as well. Meeting everyone.
fantastic. Hey, there we go. Okay, I heard my voice was too big, I didn't need a mic. At least that's what the wife says. Aside from, I want to thank you in case anyone didn't hear me. I was thanking them. Carl and Malona do a lot of volunteer work for charity, and it is greatly appreciated. So I believe they really deserve a round of applause for that. But of course, it's up to you if we want to share it or not. For some of us that know you, we know the story, but if anyone ever gets the chance to be on the set with you guys on Homicide Hunter, there is some etiquette that goes with the set chairs. I didn't know if you want to share that or not.
Don't ever sit in a chair with somebody else's name on it. We'll just leave it at that. It's pretty common sense, you would think. If the chair doesn't have your name on it, you don't sit in it. Anyways, it's a long story, but it's kind of a
Yeah, it was actually posted on Facebook. So, by the way, just a couple little plugs here. If you, almost all of you are already, but if not, join Carl's group, which has 25,000 members. It's the Homicide Hunter group, and join my group, which is Homicide Hunter Discussion, which only has about 6,000 members. But I started it a lot later. And also, if you're not already Facebook friends with Andrew Elkins, send him a friend request because his pictures are out of this world. He'll post dozens and dozens of pictures of this cruise and previous cruises. They're really top-notch professional quality. This lady here has a question.
Hi, my name is Mary Ward, and I'm from Salt Lake, Utah. I wanted to know, beyond the fans and the ratings going, what is your thoughts of our fascination with the Bible?
I don't think we care. We're just glad you are.
There's never a time.
Well, actually, my wife was a huge ID fan before I was ever on the ID channel. I didn't know what the ID channel was. So she's one of you. She's an ID addict as well, which is just kind of strange now that I'm on Homicide.
Okay, so no one ever thought, why are they so interested in murder?
Well, I just know that in the beginning, I told Joe that if they could get this to a ID or somebody like that it would go, and he said, no, they won't. And I said, look, my mom used to read true crime magazines. I said, Ellery Queen and all of that. I said, you are going to have tons of women things because The women are the ones by the murder mysteries. They do all of that stuff. They watch it on TV. They read Ellery Queen. They read all this stuff. And if you can get it to a program, you'll have tons of women's fans. No, they won't. Yeah, they won't. Okay. And that's what happened.
I guess we're I think it's a very normal human nature to be fascinated with things that are deeply meaningful. And what is more deeply meaningful than the loss of someone in a violent way? And then the mystery of how we solve that. So I just look at it as it's human nature. Why did a number of us become police officers? It wasn't for the boredom. It wasn't for the pay. It may have been for driving fast and carrying a gun. That kind of stuff. But for real, there's a curiosity and a fascination that is human nature, earthwide.
And you know on TV that on the news, if it leads, or if it bleeds, it leads. Those are the first things.
We have a question over on the starboard side.
I'm Becky from Wisconsin. My question is actually for Carl. I'm curious how you went from being a police officer to an actor. How did that transition?
I did it the old-fashioned way, like most actors do. I answered an ad on Craigslist. and I say that jokingly, but that is the honest-to-God truth. I moved out to California. Actually, I want to shout out to my cousins over here. I don't know if you've met the two Carls. I'm Carl number 3. There's Carl number 1, Carl number 2. And my cousin Anita, if you haven't spoken with her yet, don't worry, she'll get to you. But I moved out to California. I used to visit them all the time. My family lived out in San Jose. And I was tired of the cold. I was going through a bad breakup and stuff. And he convinced me to move out to California. And didn't really have a whole lot going on out there at the time. So I was having looking through Craigslist one day, and I noticed that an ad that they were looking for former or current police officers to play background police officers on this brand new TV show that was filming up in San Francisco called Trauma. It was the show that replaced ER. And I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. They're going to pay me to do that? I've never seen something. I didn't want to act. The same way. I didn't want to, don't make me act. I'll just stand there and run back and forth in front of the camera, whatever you need. But so it was a 3-day job, and I called up and I said, yeah, I'd like to do it. Great, we'll book you for the 3 days. Well, I started working for a private investigator at the same time, and I had a case that came up that was going to interfere with one of those days. Called casting back up, said I can't work one of the days, and they're like, well, we can't use you if you can't do all 3 days for continuity. I'm like, that's fine, just cancel it, no big deal. It was just kind of a farce thing anyways. Private eye thing got canceled, called them back, it's like, hey, I can do all 3 days now, and they're like, well, we already filled all the police officer spots, do you want to be a paramedic? I was like, not really. And she's like, trust me, you're going to be doing the exact same thing in just a different uniform. And so it turned out I was lucky it was a show about paramedics. And once they picked up the show, they called us all back. And one day I ended up getting lines on the show. And I didn't realize what a big deal that was, getting lines on a network TV show. Until they were putting the microphone on me, and all my background friends were like, dude, they're putting a mic on you? And I'm like, yeah. Don't you know what that means? I'm like, yeah, it means I'm going to talk. Well, it also meant they opened a chair for me next to Cliff Curtis and all the other stars. I got a piece of the trailer. I went from making $80 to making $2,500 for the day. I ate in a different line than all my friends, which of course I rubbed into them, even though I went back to do background the next day. But the next episode after that, Jeffrey Reiner, the director-producer, realized that I could actually handle lines, so he gave them to me again. Episode after that, he gave it to me again, gave me a character name, and made me part of the cast of the show, which that opened up a lot of doors. I had agents calling me, you're a cast member on a network TV show, you don't have an agent, would you like an agent? One thing led to another, and I actually started to enjoy the acting, something I never wanted to do, but worked very hard at it, and eventually got this, and been going strong for 8 seasons, and now it sounds like a 9th, so.
Hi, my name is Kathy Sullivan. Did you mention something about Eagle River?
Eagle River!
Eagle River!
I lived in Sheboygan, Wisconsin, many years ago. It's Wisconsin. Anyway, I have a couple of questions. Carl, you're a non-smoker?
Well, I said, normally I answer that question before anybody asks it. I forgot to today, but I do not smoke cigarettes.
Okay, so then how do you think when it's a show where the show's go,
Well, if you ask my director, he says I don't do it very well. But I've gotten better. He says he's been trying to teach me to smoke for 7 years, basically. But I think I've gotten better at it. But they're herbal cigarettes. There's no nicotine in them. I do inhale them. They taste and smell horrible, but they don't hurt when you inhale them.
I just couldn't figure out what's in there from smoking.
And I get that question every single day. So normally I say it right off the bat. But.
I'd like to see, I'm a nurse practitioner and have been for 35 years, also served in the military. And so for vets in the room, thank you for your service. I have been working as a nurse practitioner for many years. I won't give my age in years, but many years. And there's always been, in my experience, a high level of interaction between police officers and nurses. You know, in the ER or whatever. And there are a lot of nurses that marry police officers and police officers that marry nurses. So it's a pipe dream, but I'd like to see a better role, or better or enlarged role of what real nurses do in the emergency room. And we just really see nurses when Joe comes up and says, "Can I speak to a patient?" And I think that's real life now, because nursing is very different now than it was, in the 1970s. So I would like to see that if you guys have any influence. And I have.
We don't.
Well, you might tell me opposite. I have become so involved in the show that I sit there and I'll say, "You idiot! Why are you standing there? You're going to get shot. Move over." So well, watch it. I'm jumping all over the place, and I yell at all of you.
Question from the other side? Maybe we have a question from over here? No? Over here?
Hi, I'm Christopher. I'm from Maryland with my wife.
There you are, Christopher. I've been looking for you.
I know. Thank you, Carl.
It's another inside joke.
Carl, when you do that special vision and everyone disappears, do you have a problem bringing them back? And don't try it on me right now.
They usually come back within 30 seconds. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Carl.
I haven't had a problem yet. And if you don't know, we call that the Sherlock moment on the script. And people call it Kenda vision and other things and stuff, but it's, on the script they actually write Sherlock moment. And he's right, it actually means we can go home because it's the last shot we do at 4 a.m. on a night shoot is the Sherlock moment. So once we're into that, we're about ready to go.
This question is for Kathy. Hey, Kathy, I'm Ryan from Kansas City, and I just wanted to ask you, do you have any words of wisdom for being a wife on the second for my wife? She's like a 17. How you did all those years after sanity, maybe some real wisdom for her?
I think that being the wife of a homicide detective and a police officer is about the same as being a spouse of military. You can't worry about your spouse. You go on, you live your life, you raise the kids, you do the dishes, you go to work, you clean the house, or whatever you do. You cannot worry about them 24 hours a day. There will be times when you kind of think, when you're having a drink alone, you think, oh my God, where are they? But on whole, you go on with your life. And then they come home, and it's great. Now, when they come home, they try to take over everything, which you've been doing forever. Other than that, so my deal was I worked part-time as a nurse. I took care of the kids. I took care of the house. I cut the grass, or the kids did. But the cars were his. I said, don't let me run out of gas. I'm not taking the car to the car dealership because they all say, oh, look at the blonde. She doesn't know what she's talking about. You need all of this stuff. No, all I need is an oil change. No, you need all this. So The cars were Joe's. I took care of everything else. But like I said, you cannot worry about them 24 hours a day, so you just don't. You live your life. You keep going. And as far as what they say about the nursing, I told them that they need to have the other Kathy in one say, hey, have her in scrubs and say, hey, goodbye, I'm going to work, you just got home, see you later. Or, you know, hey, we're both going to work. We'll see you later for dinner. So hopefully they bring a little bit more of the nursing into the show. I don't know if they will, but I put in my 2 cents.
The next episode we're filming, I saw the script and it does exactly that. So, yes. Yep.